My grandfather was a fisherman all his life. He lived in a small coastal village in Norway, where the sea was both a friend and a foe. I loved visiting him during the summers, listening to his stories about the ocean. But there was one story he only told me once. I think he hoped I'd forget it, but it's burned into my memory like a brand. It was the summer of 1982, and I was 12 years old. My grandfather and I were out on his boat, a small, sturdy vessel named Hovardr. The day had been clear, and we had a good catch. As the sun began to set, the air grew colder, and a thick fog rolled in faster than I'd ever seen. "Time to head back, boy," my grandfather said, his voice tense. I noticed the way his eyes darted nervously across the water. He was never afraid of the sea, but that night, something was different. As we started the journey back, the fog enveloped us completely. It was like being swallowed by a giant wet blanket. I couldn't see anything beyond the edge of the boat. The only sounds were the lapping of water against the hull and the hum of the engine. Suddenly, the boat jolted violently. I nearly fell overboard, catching myself on the edge. My grandfather killed the engine and grabbed a flashlight, shining it into the fog. "Stay here," he ordered, though I could see the fear in his eyes. He peered over the side, his flashlight beam cutting through the dense mist. The water was strangely still, except for the ripples spreading out from the boat. Then I saw it, a massive shadow beneath the surface, moving slowly, deliberately. "What is it?" I whispered, my voice trembling. "Jörmungandr," he replied, almost too quietly to hear. "The Midgard Serpent." I'd heard the legends, of course. The giant sea serpent destined to bring about Ragnarok, the end of the world. But they were just stories, weren't they? The boat lurched again, harder this time. My grandfather stumbled back, dropping the flashlight into the water. Darkness surrounded us, and in the eerie silence that followed, I heard it, a low, rumbling hiss that seemed to vibrate through my bones. My grandfather scrambled to restart the engine. "Hold on tight," he yelled. The motor roared to life, and we sped through the fog, the boat groaning as if under immense pressure. As we broke through the fog, the night sky became visible again, stars twinkling innocently above. I glanced back and saw the shadow recede into the depths, the water calming as if nothing had happened. We reached the shore in record time, my grandfather muttering prayers under his breath the whole way. Once we were safely back in the house, he sat me down and made me promise never to speak of what we saw. "Some things are best left forgotten," he said, his face pale and drawn. "I never told anyone, not until now. My grandfather passed away a few years ago, taking his fear and knowledge with him. But recently, strange things have been happening. Fishermen have gone missing, their boats found adrift with no sign of a struggle. Locals whisper about the return of the serpent, and I can't shake the feeling that what we encountered that night was only a warning. I've moved far from the coast, but sometimes, when I close my eyes, I hear that hissing sound, and I see the shadow in the water. I don't know if it's just a memory or something more, but I do know one thing. If Jörmungandr is real, we're all in more danger than we realize. So, if you ever find yourself on the Norwegian coast, and the fog rolls in faster than it should, get to shore. And whatever you do, don't look back.